The interview recently given by Jean-Luc Habyarimana, son of the former Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana, in the online newspaper Wancha Africa on January 13, 2026, titled All Heritage Day or Cadiz, Entretien exclusive avec Jean-Luc Habyarimana, represents a worrying example of denial of the genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda. Under the guise of political discourse, this intervention spreads historical falsehoods, reversals of responsibility, and attempts to rehabilitate an extremist regime responsible for planning and executing the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi. It is imperative to restore the documented historical facts in the face of this falsification conspiracy. Jean-Luc Habyarimana attempts to whitewash his father's legacy, presenting President Juvenal Habyarimana as a sincere man of peace. This portrayal contradicts the evidence established by multiple international investigations, tribunals, and human rights organizations. The National Republican Movement for Development (MRND), founded by Juvenal Habyarimana in 1975, was not merely a political party, but a totalitarian apparatus. As documented by researcher Gerard Prunier, the MRND was a truly totalitarian party. Every Rwandan citizen had to be a member, including infants and the elderly. All mayors and prefects were chosen from party cadres. The party was everywhere. This apparatus was institutionalized through the 1978 Rwandan Constitution, establishing a single-party presidential republic where only the MRND existed and only Habyarimana could run for president. The system institutionalized ethnic discrimination through the so-called ethnic balance policy Iringaniza, establishing quotas across all sectors of national life. Far from promoting reconciliation, the Habyarimana regime perpetuated and systematized the exclusion of Tutsi. Contrary to Jean-Luc's claim that his father sincerely sought peace, documented evidence demonstrates deliberate planning of the genocide against the Tutsi. The distribution of weapons to civilians. By 1992, the Habyarimana government distributed firearms to MRND members and affiliated militias. For example, the bishop of the important Nyundo diocese criticized this arms distribution in a pastoral letter in late December 1993. Training of Interahamwe and Impuzamugambi militias. These militias received intensive military training in late 1993 and early 1994. Groups of 300 men at a time were sent for 3 weeks to a military camp in the northeastern Mutara region. Human Rights Watch documented that the massacres were planned 4 months in advance. The Presidential Guard and other elements of the Rwandan army trained militia members of political parties, the Interahamwe and Impuzamugambi, how to kill as efficiently as possible. Systematic genocidal propaganda. The Radio-Television Libre des Milk Alliance, a TLM, created with direct support from the Habyarimana regime, with Felician Kobuga as a principal shareholder and chairman of the General Assembly, broadcasted hate propaganda calling for the extermination of Tutsi. The 10 Commandments of the Hutu, published in the newspaper Kangura in December 1990, formed a solid basis for division, hatred, and persecution against the Tutsi since 1959, culminating in the genocide against the Tutsi carried out by the MND government and its Hutu power extremist establishment. Proven planning of the genocide against the Tutsi. Investigations, such as the international inquiry by the International Federation for Human Rights, FIDH, from January 7th to 21st, 1993, concluded that acts of genocide had been committed in Rwanda against the Tutsi ethnic group, involving state agents and members of the Rwandan armed forces. Following this inquiry, French authorities were informed of a plan to carry out genocide against the Tutsi, ordered by President Habyarimana and associates including his brothers-in-law Protezi Gironyarazo, Hazi and Colonel Eli Sagotwa, Casimir Bizimungu, Colonel Stayanist Bagasura, Anatole Senjiyumva, Lawrence Arubuga, among others, agreeing to execute a systematic genocide, using the army and local populations if necessary. UN Special Rapporteur findings in his mission to Rwanda from April 8 to 17, 1993. Wally Bacon Daye, UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Executions, established that Rwanda was the scene of massacres and numerous severe human rights violations. Referring to the Genocide Convention, he noted that the victims of attacks, primarily Tutsi, were targeted solely for their ethnic identity. The targeting of Tutsi led the rapporteur to consider whether the situation constituted genocide. Jean-Luc Habyarimana claims his father believed in the Arusha Accords out of responsibility. This assertion contradicts President Habyarimana's documented actions, which systematically sabotaged their implementation. Classified US documents confirm that shortly after the signing of the peace agreement, President Habyarimana deliberately and systematically delayed the formation of the coalition government as agreed, expanded extremist groups, and intensified hate broadcasts on RTLM. In a speech on November 15, 1992, Habyarimana dismissed the Arusha Accords as scraps of paper and mocked his opponents for avoiding elections, revealing his true intentions. Jean-Luc asserts that the current regime falsely claims that the October 1, 1990 invasion was the only way to allow Rwandan refugees to return, citing UNHCR documents from July 1990. This ignores historical context. Since the 1960s, President Habyarimana repeatedly refused the return of Tutsi refugees, claiming Rwanda was overpopulated. By 1988, roughly 480,000 Rwandans were refugees, mainly in Burundi, Uganda, Zaire, and Tanzania. They continued demanding their legal right to return. The FPR, founded in 1987, rose precisely in response to this refusal, aiming to secure the repatriation of exiled Rwandans and reform the Rwandan government, including sharing political power. Jean-Luc claims that the attack on his father's plane was carried out by the Rwandan Patriotic Front (RPF). This is part of a manipulative strategy to divert attention from Hutu extremists' responsibility for planning the genocide. US State Department, April 7, 1994. A declassified intelligence report cited an unidentified source claiming rogue Hutu army elements, possibly the elite Presidential Guard, were responsible. The Defense Intelligence Agency confirmed on May 9 that the plane crash was in fact an assassination by hardline Hutu military officers. Belgian investigation 1994 concluded that the missile was fired from Masaka Hill, which was under FAR control, making it practically impossible for a rebel soldier to reach Masaka carrying missiles. French report 2012. Experts identified Kanam camp, controlled by Habyarimana's army, as the most probable launch site. Mute Sinzi report, Rwanda, 2010. Implicated Hutu power supporters, concluding that extremist Hutu soldiers caused the plane crash to derail peace negotiations. French judicial attempts 201-820-2 ultimately dropped the case for lack of evidence. Philip Gorovich summarized in 1998 the Hutu power extremists, including Colonel Theonest Bagasora and members of the Ikozu, opposed the Arusha Accords. The assassination provided the pretext to launch a pre-planned genocide. Jean-Luc uses the term memorial apartheid to describe Rwanda, claiming that a part of the population is deprived of the fundamental right to mourn its dead massacred in the 1990s under threat of being accused of divisionism. This rhetoric is a form of denial through the double genocide theory, attempting to minimize the genocide against the Tutsi by claiming Hutu were equally victims. The genocide against the Tutsi in 1994 is internationally recognized. The International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda, ICTR, established by the UN Security Council on November 8, 1994. CONVICTED 93 individuals for genocide and other serious violations of international humanitarian law. Over 1 million civilians, primarily Tutsi, but also moderate Hutu, were killed in a planned genocidal campaign by the MRND, Hutu power extremists, the Rwandan armed forces, and Interahamwe militias. Hutu victims were mainly political opponents, or FPR allies. Their deaths, though tragic, were not genocide but part of civil war and political violence. Jean-Luc expresses support for the Democratic Republic of the Congo, DRC government, while deliberately ignoring the role of the Forces Démocratiques pour la Libération du Rwanda (FDLR) in destabilizing Eastern Congo. Founded in September 2000, the FDLR directly descends from forces that perpetrated the 1994 genocide. Composition includes original Interahamwe leaders responsible for directing the genocide. Sylvester Mudikumura, FDLR military commander until 2019, was formerly deputy commander of the Presidential Guard in 1994. Documented crimes. UN and NGO reports document numerous atrocities. 96 civilians killed in Bisarungi, Walikol in 2010. Villagers attacked in Masisi in 2012. Forced recruitment of at least 83 children under 18, and over 100 sexual violence incidents documented between 2011-2012. International position. On October 4, 2005, the UN Security Council demanded FDLR disarmament and exit from DRC. The Washington Peace Agreement, June 27, 2025, between Rwanda and DRC mandates the irreversible and verifiable cessation of state support to the FDLR and associated militias, explicitly recognizing the FDLR's regional threat. Jean-Luc cites nearly 1 million Rwandans dispersed worldwide and hundreds of thousands in exile, implying the current Rwandan government caused this. Historical context shows that after the genocidal government's military defeat in July 1994, officials, soldiers, and militias fled to DRC, bringing 1.4 million civilians, mostly Hutu, misled into fearing the RPF. This was a deliberate strategy of using civilians as human shields. Refugee camps in Zaire were militarized by ex-FAR and Interahamwe, used to rearm and plan attacks on Rwanda, contributing to the 1996 Rwanda DRC war. Joseph Nzarorera, ex-MRND Secretary General, confirmed in exile that a scorched earth strategy mobilized civilians to flee with genocidaires to Zaire. French Operation Turquoise, authorized June 22, 1994, saved civilians in southwest Rwanda, but also allowed genocidal forces to flee. The operation created corridors, preventing the RPF from capturing militias and FAR forces. Reports confirm French troops transported ex-Rwandan government soldiers to Zaire. Jean-Luc repeatedly criticizes the contemporary Rwandan government as a system in crisis based on fear, repression, and confiscation of memory. While political critique is normal, in this context, it distracts from the documented crimes of his father's regime, a classic tactic of genocide denial, shifting attention from historical crimes to contemporary controversies. Post-genocide Rwanda faced enormous challenges in reconstruction, justice, and reconciliation. The Gacaca courts, established in 2001, processed over 100,000 genocide-related cases, representing an unprecedented transitional justice effort. Legitimate criticisms of governance cannot be used to minimize the genocide against the Tutsi. Jean-Luc Habyarimana's interview demonstrates the persistent dangers of genocide denial by attempting to whitewash his father's legacy and the MRND regime, reversing responsibility, promoting the double genocide theory, and indirectly supporting groups like the FDLR. He contributes to the falsification of history. The Habyarimana regime and MRND planned and executed the genocide against the Tutsi in 1994. Over 1 million Tutsi people were massacred within 100 days. President Habyarimana systematically sabotaged the implementation of the Arusha Accords. The April 6, 1994 attack was carried out by Hutu extremists opposed to compromise with the OPF, the FDLR, successor to genocidal forces, continues to destabilize the Great Lakes region and commit atrocities. In the face of historical revisionism, it is essential to continue documenting, teaching, and transmitting the memory of the genocide against the Tutsi. Denial is not only an offense to victims and survivors, it is a threat to the future, as those who deny past genocides pave the way for future ones. We cannot allow this failure to be compounded by denial of what truly occurred. Without truth, there can be neither lasting peace nor reconciliation.